Today we are so excited to welcome Miss Jasmine Habersham to our podcast. Hi, how are you? How is everything going?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you?
Doing good. We're just trying to get to the end of semester, or at least for me. These two, they're done with college. I'm just trying to get to the end of
It's so rough, especially during this pandemic. It's like we're
Yeah.
oh my God.
Which brings us to the first question is how has, it been COVID for you? How has that been?
Let me tell you, it has been the craziest experience, but also like the most rewarding for me. Because I lost a lot of jobs and then I also gained uh, some work in a very different way than I was anticipating. So when COVID hit, I had like my Barcelona debut coming up. It was a lot of good stuff that was like in the plans.
Mhm.
Um, but when it initially happened and everything stopped, I was in Minneapolis and it was really heartbreaking because we had just staged the entire opera and we got to the room run and they were like, yeah, we can't do this, and it was so devastating because we put so much work into it. And granted, it's probably going to be rescheduled for another time. It was just so devastating because at that time no one knew what was happening, you know
Yeah.
um, and it was terrifying because I remember getting on a plane and people were not wearing masks even then. This was like early March.
Yeah.
So that was troubling. However, I remember getting home and being like, you know what? This is a time for me to rest. This is a time for me to just do my voice lessons. I like was like, I haven't done handle, so I'm gonna learn some handle. Like I really took the time to just be like, okay, I'm just gonna play and I'm just gonna figure some things out while I'm doing this. And then again, while I did lose work, I got a wonderful opportunity to be a part of the Atlanta Opera Company Players. And it's very much set up in the sense like it was almost like have you heard of a fest contract in Europe? So it was very much set up like that where we did multiple roles throughout the year.
Oh,
So that was a tremendous like experience because I got to do some great debut roles. Um, I sang the girl in Der Kaiser von Atlantis, and I also sang Michaela and Carmen. And in between that, I also had like some digital projects that I did with Madison Opera. And then also I was at Seattle Opera. I made my debut singing Zerlina, and I did a recital with them as well.
nice. Nice. So I think I skipped something. First, can you tell us a little bit your background and your bio so that
Yeah.
people understand exactly like they're like, what are you a
He just
player?
got excited. That's all it was.
I got really excited. When we talk about COVID, I get excited about COVID and everything.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Macon, Georgia. I am born and raised here. And I, came from a very musical family. And of course, started out in church, singing in the choir. And I took piano lessons. And I also, in high school, I was uh, the first chair and clarinet player in band.
Oh,
So,
I like that you question that. Is that right? Is that a real instrument?
yeah, and I was a section leader. So like I had a very diverse like musical I guess experience you could say, but it wasn't until about high school that's when I like switched over to singing. And so like I uh actually auditioned for Sister Margareta at the in the Sound of Music at Theater Macon.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
So that was like kind of one of the like the first beginning things that I started to do. And yeah, I kind of just it started from there. I started taking voice lessons. And then my voice teacher was like, I think you should like really do this, like do vocal performance. So I applied to a couple schools. I chose Shorter University for my undergraduate degree. And then I went to the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music for my master's and artist diploma. And then after that, like, we were talking earlier, I didn't really have anything lined up, but I came home and got some much needed rest and was able to do a couple gigs, especially with some of the school tours with Cincinnati Opera, Opera Theater St. Louis, and I ended up making my debut with the Kentucky Opera, singing Yum Yum and the Mikado. Yeah.
Goodness, so much.
Yeah, it sounds like we should get a map and just every time you name another place.
No, seriously, 'cause, like now I'm like, no, it amazes me. Like, and I not to be like, oh my gosh, my bio's getting so long. No, but like it's gotten to the point where I'm like, oh wow, I've done a lot. And I didn't know it at the time. Like when you're in the moment, you're just doing it. But then you look back, you're like, man, I really have been grateful to have a really successful like career from the beginning of the kinds of roles I was doing and the places where I was singing. So yeah, I have to remember the long game of it that it's like, I have to be grateful for what I have now and before and what that's leading to.
Yeah. What's amazing is, as like musicians, we've all been through school and everything. And it's not, I wouldn't say super rare, but to hear of someone going through education and still having so many outside opportunities and actually being really active in our field while you're doing like your actual degree it's insane to hear, because we already know how much goes into a music degree by itself. So for the fact that you were not only doing your master's artist diploma, but you were actually out in the field like doing work, amazes me. What was your like what did your I want to see what your planner looked like during your degrees, because I'm sure it was just so crazy.
Listen, I'm like, I don't know how I got through grad school, but I did. I really, you know what I mean? It's just like
Yes,
on
absolutely.
the struggle bus. Throughout all of my like, uh, school career, because it's like to have people have 18 hours of work and then you're performing in the operas. My planner was very, very packed. Um, if I could go back, I wish I would have definitely prioritized some things more, as far as like the importance of coachings, because when you get out of school, those coachings cost money. Even
Yes.
though, like, when you're in school, you're kind of like, oh, I get these coachings for free, but you don't.
No, you do not. No.
But when you get out of school, it's like, oh, I have to do this all on my own. So you just have to really be self-sufficient. And it is challenging because you have, at least when I was at CCM, which is a very academic school, I was in choir and I was taking, a number of classes. And so like it was a lot, but I'm so thankful that I got the experience to kind of go through that, because when I came out, it was like, oh, I can do anything. So I was like, now I know I was so hard. So that when I get out in the field, I'm like, oh, this is a breeze,
Yeah.
So even though it was a struggle bus, it was like when I got out, I was like, oh, now I see why it was so hard for me. Yeah.
Right.
I have
What's
a, oh,
Sorry,
I'm
Anthony, go
sorry.
ahead.
I have a question about that because I think no one really talks about when you graduate, you're by yourself. Like you don't have, your lessons teacher anymore every week, or you don't have, readily kind of resources available. What are some of the things that you did when you learned I'm by myself? What did you go practice by yourself? Did you go do this? What did you do?
Okay, so this is something that I think is so important that any artist needs to learn, because it's always going to be up to you whether you have a manager or not, or. Um, I really took the time to develop myself and I created opportunities for myself. So the big thing is like if you're not getting them, go go find some people that want to hear you sing. Go to the local church and say, "Hey, I'd love to give a recital," and put your favorite pieces on there and work with some of your friends. Just and it may not you can't at some point it's not about the money, it's just about the practice of it. so you can get those things under your belt, and who knows, they may give you $500 or something, to do that. But it's like, if you don't have an opportunity, you and your friends get together and create something. Like, if there's a role that you guys want to do, like if y'all want to sing Les Notes de Figaro, you guys get your friends together and doing it in your living room. Who says you can't
Yeah.
do that? you know and it's not to say, I don't know if I would necessarily like put it in my resume that you've studied said role in your living room, but you can at least say, like, I've had experience with it, I've coached it with someone, so if someone wants to potentially hire you for something, they can at least know, like, oh, okay, she's had some experience with this. Yeah, don't be afraid to explore and learn different styles if that interests you, you know so that was the biggest thing, that like I made sure I connected with people the best way that I could, just to let them know, like, hey, I just graduated, I'd love to come and sing for you guys. That was a great way for just to let myself be known to those companies. um
Mhm.
and again, I think, like, creating the roles that you want to do, creating that, and just doing the work and practicing will take you much farther than, like, kind of waiting on other people to hand you something. If
I
that makes
love that. And that was kind of, it ties into exactly what I was going to say, is that there's this huge notion within our field that it's like, okay, well, if you're out of school, you must have a super stable like line of income coming in already. And I think that scares people away. And I think it also promotes the idea of just being in school just to be in school without actually doing a degree or a certificate that will actually help you or benefit you. And I love the fact that you just said that, because, and this was something that I think, I don't know if it was Brandon, when we had Brandon Patrick George on a while ago as well, he mentioned how after school, like after he finished his degrees, he actually had a period of time where he wasn't really in an orchestra. He wasn't really doing anything except for maybe a little bit of freelancing. And that's kind of what got him into Imani Wins and everything else that he's doing. And that's like not like pushed within our field. That's not talked about enough. It's like, oh, don't, those people are different.
No one teaches you. That's the
No,
one thing that I wish that people, like, I wish there was a class, just a business class. There was one class, oh Jesus, I almost felt it was like grad research. If they could replace that class with another class, with the class about, finding
that benefit.
the fact you're gonna have to pay your own taxes. Like, if they had that kind of class, um, about how to build your career, and
Yes.
it should be required.
Right.
Yes.
Not just like
Absolutely.
some elective, like, oh, that's, cute over there. No, it should be a required class for everyone, especially if you're a musician.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
yeah, so to your point,
So
exactly. It just, I think we haven't been taught to do those things, and no one talks about it. Even, I have to say, my teacher didn't really talk about it. They were just like, okay, bye.
Right.
they
Have
say,
fun.
say you learn the voice.
Right.
Bye.
Yeah.
um, Going back to your education a little bit and your roots, how did all that, your education growing up in Middle Georgia, going to Shorter, CCM, help you find your voice and cultivate it? And now, after all your education, being by yourself, how did you find like your inner voice and grow it and make it like, I am me, and me goes everywhere?
Ooh, that's such a good question. The time where I had the break, where I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Just trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
Um, of course, auditioning for things and getting rejected, that can put you kind of like in a bad place if you're not secure. And at some point, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the stuff that I love. That's it. And if people can't accept that, then clearly we're not supposed to work together.
Right.
Um, so when I led with that, that's when things really started to open up for me. When I, like, I love doing new music. It's a passion of mine to do new stuff and to create new roles. Um, so I literally led with that, and that opened up so many other avenues that I didn't know
Mhm.
that I could uniquely do. Um, and like, as far as finding my voice, I really I'm inspired by so many different people and artists. Like I love Audra McDonald. I know she's not like an opera singer, but she's like everything because her storytelling is so fantastic. And it's like I'm like, that's what I want to be, an opera. Like I just want to be a great storyteller and I just want to tell the truth to people. And that is where I found my Eunice because that is where like that's where I care, and that's what I know translates because I've seen so many performances where people are just like singing notes, right? And you're like, oh, I could have stayed at home. I just paid $100 to sit in this family circle only for you to like phone it in. And it feels disrespectful. And granted, now that I'm singing more, I can understand when people do phone it in because they could just be tired. And not having the time, especially at some of those bigger houses where it's like you don't have the time to connect as a cast.
Yeah.
I get that. But at the same token, it's like I want people to really know and feel what I'm singing. And that's always my number one goal when it comes to bringing out the Eunice of who I am. Because I know there's no other person like me. And there's no other, I'm not like every other person, and I think not being afraid to show that vulnerability, which is hard to get to. That's where I find my Eunice. Yeah. And
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that the idea of non-conformity has been a topic of discussion for us a few times, and I keep bringing up Titus Underwood, but I will, and I will not apologize for it. But this interview he did where he talks about how for a really long time, especially within orchestral auditions, he felt as if he had to conform to what they wanted to hear. And by doing that, a part of yourself is not there. So you're not being genuinely you all the time. And, he said it was when he understood that and started breaking away from that idea of conformity that he fully like got into himself. And for you, you're within a field, and we're all within a field that is really Eurocentric, right? And really white male dominated in every aspect that we can touch and put our fingers on. And so question for you as a Black female musician to a Black female musician, I wanted to ask, like, many roles that you've been cast at were not written for someone who looks like you, and that's just the truth behind it. So like, how do you deal with situations like that? And have you experienced negative like things that have happened due to the fact of, being who you are, playing a role for someone who may not have looked like you?
I don't think I've experienced anything negative. However, I did like expect, could some people be like, well, why wasn't this played by a white person? Especially particularly, I did a role in Minnesota Opera called The Fix. And I played Shoeless Joe Jackson's wife. And that's a white woman. Just straight up, that's just a white woman. But they wanted to push it in a different direction of it being a diverse cast, very much like Hamilton.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I must say, I think that was such a powerful move because I think for the first time we were just to be able to be seen as people, not this Black girl singing this white woman's role. We were just all being able to interpret the spirit of these people through the singing just as we were, and so I think that was a really impactful experience for me, because first of all, I didn't expect the role at all because I just thought it would have gone to a typical like Caucasian person. But I think when you make those bold moves like that, I think it really makes the audience expand its mind about who we are discussing, who we're talking about, And I think it actually, people care more about the story than like who's singing it.
Right.
Right. In general.
Not a factor. Now, if race is a part of the story, I do think that it is essential that you cast appropriately. There are too many different ethnicities for you not to, So if it does have to do with race, yes, I think you should cast appropriately. But if it doesn't, and it can like go any which way, I think you can mix it up, and I think you should. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you absolutely did.
Yeah, I really have not had any major negative experiences, to be
Well,
honest.
first of all, thank God.
Yeah,
You know, I'm
yeah,
glad we're getting to that point, you
I don't
know.
know about, and just haven't made it to my ear. It is, um, but I will say, I do think the bigger struggle for African Americans is being typecast in certain roles. And
Mm,
so that is a thing that I do feel like in the back of my mind that I always like have to fight. Like, you know, do they want me to sing Summertime at this gala or something? Or I could tell you a lot of my like guy friends, they're like, Old Man River. Like, you know what I mean? They always ask for it. And it's like,
Yeah,
granted, it is great. It's a wonderful piece, but please know that black people are very diverse in cultures and styles. And we can do a lot of other different things other than those particular tropes, if
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
And on that, because I was a double major in college, and a lot of me and my voice major friends, we always felt that going through college, and it felt like some people didn't understand Black voices, and that it is different. We cannot fit the same mold. It's literally genetically like our makeup is different. And a lot of my friends, like they're graduating and they're just like, I want to go study with somebody who can, knows my voice, who can actually do some things like that. So how
Yeah.
do you feel about that? Because been through this path. And I'm pretty sure you're getting calls from all different types of new students like, can I work with you? Because you've been through it, and your voice is just so beautiful. So how do you feel about that? Have you had to deal with anything like that?
Listen, that is one of the things in my career that frustrates me the most sometimes. Because I know with my voice, I have a very chocolate, sound.
Yes.
Um, but I don't think people have a real understanding of voices, and sometimes people mistake the color for heft.
Yeah.
Sometimes, um,
Yeah.
and so it wasn't. I will say this: it wasn't until I got to graduate school that I really got into my voice type, because they were like, Jasmine, you shouldn't be singing this. I was like, oh, but I thought, and they're like, no. So they definitely bumped me up higher than I expected, and not like crazy high, but definitely in the lyric coloratura route.
Mm,
Um,
Mhm.
and I do agree with you. I do think that there's not enough people that really know what our voices can do as Black singers. I think again, sometimes we get limited and they think, well, oh, this person kind of sounds like Leontine Price, so this person's the next Leontine, and I that is not the case. And I just, first of all, there could never be another one of her, and we shouldn't try to make copies
mm,
of people. I just, that is the one thing that I do find somewhat frustrating sometimes, that I think people um don't really look at the individual voice, and they try to say, oh, well, this person's like this and that. And it's like, no, I think we need to really look at the individual voice and see what it can do. And I've been grateful to find a teacher who was like, Jasmine, this is your voice, and this is what we're going to do. I'm not going to try to create you into anything else. This is what we're working with, and this is how, when you're singing this particular rep, how we're going to make it fit, if that makes sense.
mhm.
Like I need to work on making the music fit my
Mhm.
voice, if that makes sense.
yes. Oh my
Versus
God.
like,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
versus like me trying to sing. No, I'm gonna find a way for it to fit my voice. Um,
Yes.
Mhm.
and there's so many differences and things, like we don't have to stay so like in the Fox system. You know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, making it work for you, because you could be surprised. It could be something really amazing that you just didn't know, about your voice, when you really take that approach of having the music
Mhm.
fit your voice. If that. Now, some stuff is not going to work no matter what you do.
Right.
Like, I will say, and granted, I'm not going to count myself out, but I did glitter and be gay for a competition. And it was cute. It was great.
Yes.
I will say, probably the next couple years, I'll probably need to like put that down. Um, but I tried it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was great and people loved it. And again, I don't know if it's going to be a staple of mine, but I think just like if you are a student and you're faced with, people putting certain labels on your voice, try stuff on your own and see what you can do. And then, maybe bring that to your teacher and hopefully they are receptive of that. Um, but I will say it's not just happened to me. It's happened to many singers where it's like they just think you're only gonna sing this, this, and this. And it's like,
Yep.
yeah, but have you heard me in this? Have you heard
Right.
me do bel canto? Have you heard me do any handle or anything like that? So
I wish. I'm so glad that you said,
we're not
uh,
all lyric sopranos.
right, exactly, exactly, and that's one of the big things. And I wish we would have had this conversation like 5 years ago, where you were saying the music needs to fit me, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because I know so many people who feel like I need to sound like this. This is the only acceptable way this can ever be sung, and I need to do this. And then they work their behinds off trying to do something very not genuine to them. And then, of course, as audience members, we hear it and we're like, that
It's not working.
it's not working. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you touched on that. It was perfect.
And another thing too, I think when it comes to picking rep, like you beautifully stated, like, my voice likes to do light floaty things right at the top. I need to be singing things that express that,
Mhm.
and express my spirit, like that's the stuff I need to be singing. So it needs to be who you are internally. Also, I just think that's the best combination, who you are internally, what fits your voice, and just overall, like, just the like music that you like. You don't want to sing something you don't like,
Right.
and there's one person I knew, and he was always like this grumpy guy, right? Like he was just like super negative all the time.
Yeah.
He could sing the heck out of some Sweeney Todd. You know what I mean? You knew he was in it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he really knew, like he's like, this is me. You know what I mean? And like me singing that, or not me singing that, but like I don't fit everything, but I do know I fit like happy, cheerful people. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
don't fit like a dark person. And don't get me wrong, I might sing some of that stuff later on in life, but I'm
Right.
not, that's just not my vibe, if that makes sense.
Yes. Totally understand. Totally understand. I mean, I think you were just speaking to a lot of voice majors, and especially voice majors who don't fit into a category. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of voice majors, um, like when I was in college, there was like this one person where it was like, you got to sound like that. And we're like, my voice can't do that. It's not that. I have a more of a richer tone, or more, well-rounded, chocolatey, as you said, that it just won't fit that. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you said that. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I
definitely.
just want to say I'm learning a lot right now.
Oh,
I
great.
am
That's awesome.
I am learning a lot over here. And also especially like, and I agree with so much of what you said, especially performing and playing stuff that you like. Because we go through this academic route, we all have to go through school.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, so we need to hit the war horses. We need to do this. We need to make sure we can do all this. And then half the time you're like, oh my God, this is the 75th time in my 4 years I've heard this one piece. And now I have to play this one piece that I really don't want to play.
Right.
And I'm just like, y'all. And I tell all the, like, I'm a master student now, and I tell all the undergrads. And when I was in undergrad, I told them, play music you want to play, because you're going to play it automatically 100 times better than music you're not going to want to play, even if you can play it right. Because all the while, you're going to be like, wow, this is like, I've heard this before.
Yeah, it's just do,
Exactly.
do.
Right. And the thing is, but that might be like, the ish for somebody that,
Yep.
you know what I mean? We're all different, you know what I mean? And like, also you should challenge yourself too, but you should like find pieces that you're like, I really like that. And it gives me a challenge. And you should like do things that like make show off your best assets, you
Yeah.
know?
Mhm.
Because
Because
like Michael loves Baroque music, and I just Baroque is not my thing.
yeah,
But we both are like, we understand that it's like that's our thing. We love what we love.
right.
And that's the thing where you have to do stuff that you love, because when you do something you hate, I'm gonna feel it as a performer, and I'm gonna hear it as an audience member as well.
Extremely. And everybody is gonna know that's that piece that you practice and you know,
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like it's a love hate relationship. People will know. Yeah.
definitely. So, just as we're closing, we this whole episode has been nothing but advice. So, what is some advice that you would give kind of upcoming musicians, upcoming vocalists, as they travel on and get their career started?
Definitely. I think one of the most important things is, and Laura Lee Everett from Opera America, she said this, and it's probably some of the best advice I've ever heard. Always be prepared. That's the first thing. And then number two, always be a great colleague. And the if I go back to number one, when you're prepared, that lets people know that they can trust you to do bigger things as you get, older or as you advance.
Right.
And when you can develop that trust with a company, that speaks volumes, you know. And then number two, being a great colleague, you need to understand that the person that's beside you in class, they may be a general director of a company one day. And it is really, really important that you treat everyone with kindness and respect because they could be casting you in an opera 15 years later from now.
Or not casting you in an opera 15 years from now.
Yeah, exactly. So I say that all to say like work in harmony with people, be nice as you can. I mean, granted, every relationship is not going to be perfect, but always try to bet your best to be cordial with everyone. Yeah, I think that's some of the best advice that I could give. And again, like I said earlier, if you don't have an opportunity, go create it. No one is stopping you. No one. And again, during the downtime, I've mentioned several times. I didn't get into a young artist program that I, was wanting to get into. And that was actually the best thing for me because it really made me learn how to work for myself. And I kind of created, I guess you could say, like, create your own young artist program, right? So, like, find a good coach to work with, find a good teacher.
Mm.
Um, if you can do these things while you're probably working a job on the side, like, uh again, get you and your friends get together and like put on a one performance, you guys, of your favorite opera. Like that's the thing, like that I would say that young artist programs give people opportunities, they give them opportunities to cover and all these things where it's like, who says you can't do that yourself? No one's stopping you. No one. So that's the best advice I could give. And just, again, sing things that you love, and sing things that fit you, spiritually and physically in your voice.
Love that. So, Jasmine, please tell us some of the upcoming things you got going on, any big debuts you got coming up for us, and everything like that.
So okay, we are in the month. I'm thinking about some things. Okay, we're in
May.
the so actually, in June, I'll be going to Colorado to do a workshop for a new Jake Heggie opera called Intelligence. So I'll be up there for a couple weeks. And then right after that, I will be making my debut singing Nanetta and Falstaff at the Berkshire Music Festival. Um, After that, there's something coming up possibly that I can't say yet.
Yes.
Um, and then I will be singing at Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. I'll be singing The Sandman and Dew Fairy and Hansel and Gretel. And then right after that, I will be singing Gilda and Rigoletto in Opera North in the UK. Um, and then after that, I'll be doing Orpheus and Eurydice. It's the French Offenbach one, but I'll be singing Eurydice at Madison Opera.
So you
Book
are what we call booked and busy.
Yeah.
Man,
I'm
you
using
got busy.
Yeah.
it's literally coming out of my ears. And I'm like, huh?
Plus, sleep is on the itinerary for some of those stops. Sleep.
Yeah, no, but yeah, that's the plan, and I'm grateful to be doing it, especially during this time that has been just bananas, absolutely bananas. But
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Well,
You are such an inspiration
Oh,
to all of us.
congratulations. Oh my gosh. Like more hats and praise to you.
Thank you.
And before we leave, please tell our audience how they can find you so they can, come on your journey with you.
Yes. So you can find me on Facebook at Jasmine Habersham Soprano. You can also go to my website at jasminehabersham.com. Also, I am on Instagram at Dom DeGrasse. I know it's like funny, and I haven't changed in years, but it's French for Lady of Grace. But anyway, it's DAMEDEGRACE. That's my Instagram. So yeah, you can find me there, and you can always feel free to email me through my website, and yeah.
Perfect. It was such a
Awesome.
pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So thank you to our audience for listening. Please, please, please go follow Jasmine on her journey. It's a very booked and busy journey, but we're all rooting for her. So thank you again for being on the air, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye.